Hi, guys. I got a question for you. Is it time for a new offensive coordinator? Because I'm getting sick and tired of the wide receiver screen passes that they don't work very well.
So it's a great
They
question,
do work
Rich.
really well when San Francisco runs them, don't they?
Oh,
When
yeah.
you're throwing the ball to Debo Samuel, or you're throwing it to...
And listen, you did a great job before the show explaining some of the decisions that we saw in that game against the Vikings. When we saw, I think it was 12 or 13 wide receiver screens.
Look, I mean, this my assessment of that, and I've said this in the past, and some of it's pure speculation, is their decision how they were going to handle the pressure that was being brought by Brian Flores was to get the ball out to the flank instead of throwing slants or doing other things and being tricked into throwing the ball into a void that you thought was going to be there but isn't there when a linebacker would drop into a throwing lane as the ball was snapped. They decided the best way to handle it, and my guess is
based on what you saw on the All-22 and watching the game.
Listen to them
played
talk.
Football professionally.
Yeah, but I think what they did was when Justin got to the line of scrimmage, and if you've got 5 in blocking and you saw 6 or 7, your audible or your check with me was to throw the wide receiver screen. On several occasions, it worked. I think they threw it to DJ Moore 6 times, and 4 of them he gained positive yardage. It's an extension of the running game with very little risk attached to it. You're throwing it to the sideline. You're using the sideline as your friend. You're taking some of the risk out of it. Now, as I said at the time as well, I'm not saying it's a perfect plan. Me personally, I would have rather that they diversified their approach, pump the short screen and go deep like we've seen teams do.
Yes, it would have been nice to see, see a counter off of that.
Bring guys in, bunch them up, do a little bit picking, just kind of, do a little bit of everything to try to. But look, I get it. I get some of that stuff. I guess the way I would respond to the person who just called and wants to fire the coordinator. Look, if you want to get, I find it highly unlikely, and this is kind of the trend of things I've heard. Keep Eberflus, get a new offensive coordinator. What offensive coordinator in his right mind is going to come here? Who's going to be available to come here and take over an offense for a coach who is still being evaluated? Because if they don't get rid of Matt Eberflus, it doesn't mean he's in the clear. He would be, in my opinion, it would be we're going to continue the evaluation of him as a head coach. What type of job security do you have if you're an offensive coordinator, you come into this system?
Yeah. Who is that going to?
Who's taking that job?
Only somebody who wouldn't be getting a crack at an OC job anyway.
Who's taking that job?
Only somebody who's so far down the ladder that it's a huge step up in an opportunity.
And how do you
for them.
feel about that?
Well, yeah,
do you want to
someone who's
hire
never
another
called
guy?
plays
Right,
before.
you want to hire a guy who's never called plays again at the NFL level?
And at least Luke Getsy has called plays in college as an OC in his past. For what it's worth, I know some people were upset that he didn't call plays in Green Bay. He did call plays in college when he was an OC. Back.
It's anyone but Getsy approach. And I get the frustration.
Listen, you texted me the other day, though. How much money does Luke Getsy get paid? How much money is Justin Fields being paid?
Well, financially, the quarterback's always going to make more money than the offensive coordinator unless you've got a lopsided situation.
But there's a reason why, is there not?
Of course. Like, I've always been adamant that I think, especially in our town, we talk about holding our teammates, or not our teammates, our teams and our players and our coaches and our front office people to a high standard. Well, I would say if you want to hold the offensive coordinator to a high standard, and I think you should also be willing to hold the quarterback to a high standard as well. They should be able to find solutions and answers to problems, even if one of them is putting the other one in a less than perfect situation. So I am not one that believes this is a singular issue that only gets better because you change one thing.
And what's more likely? Do you think Justin Fields entering his 4th year, now operating under a third new offense during his tenure as the quarterback of the Bears is likely to, lead you to a successful outcome? You think that's likely?
I mean, history would, or what we've seen so far would probably, I would never say never, but it would lead you to, if you make a reasonable conclusion. Yeah. Look, this is also something, I mean, these are bigger story, or bigger issue things. Look at where that style of offense that is built around the style of your quarterback. It works in Philly, but that's the style of offense that Jalen Hurts played in college. He played that style at Alabama. He played that style at Oklahoma. And I think if you look across the Eagles' offensive staff, they have a lot of experience running that style of offense.
Yes.
So it's the perfect situation. If you were going to say, and if you were one that believes you've got to get Justin on the edge, you've got to get him on the move, and because he's very
Sure.
obviously athletic. He's also very accurate on the move. I'm a believer that all really good offenses lead back to the pocket at some point as well. And I think I would make the argument some of his best games, he's excelled in the pocket, whether it was Washington or Denver, or even the throw to DJ Moore against the Lions in a loss where he stepped up in the pocket and threw a dime on him right down the middle of the field. That was pure, beautiful pocket performance.
Yes.
He stepped aside, he climbs the pocket, he makes a beautiful throw. Like, that's where a lot of the really good stuff he's done has happened. So you got to be able to do both. But the point is if you're one that believes you can't chain him, kind of put him in this box and tell him to stay from tackle to tackle, and you need to get him on the edge more, and you want to design, then you're going to have to bring in a staff that this is what they do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're going to have to say...
Well, and then that better be a staff who has told you Justin Fields is a top 10 NFL quarterback. We can win with him.
Yeah.
Just let us get our hands on him.
And we're going to have to, if that's how you feel, and this is what's it's the mind screw for me, is because he could do some of that stuff in college. But we've had this conversation a million times, but he didn't have to at Ohio State. And he excelled from the pocket. So now you come into this environment where now, we got to change an offense to fit his skill set. Well, wait a second. His skill set at Ohio State was he was killing people from the pocket.
Yes.
So it's like it's
throwing good deep balls to elite level wide receivers who are NFL players already, going up against lesser talented players. You're never going to have as big of an advantage that he had at Ohio State in the NFL level.
Never.
They'll never have that type of advantage at the skill position players. It's just it's parity across the league for a reason.
And think about what has happened. And again, this is all recapping things that have happened over the course of a long period of time. But you brought a guy in Luke Getsy, his offense, and people, what is his offense? You see it on display at the Green Bay.
Yes.
You saw it on Monday or Sunday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's run. It's heavy motion. It's play action. It's a derivative of what Shanahan did out in San Francisco because LaFleur is one of his guys. It's comes from what Bill Walsh did. That's what it looks like, and that's what Luke Getsy came to kind of run. And after
why is it not being run? They don't trust the quarterback as much
doesn't
as
fit his skill set.
They need to.
Right.
So,
and when did they made the adjustment? After the Washington game last year? So I guess
Patriots against the Monday night out of the Washington
This
game.
is why I'm saying, like, when I assess blame, I think it's a big picture issue where everyone is culpable.
Yeah.
And if you want to move forward with Justin next year, and that's the evaluation that Ryan Poles makes, and that's what if he believes that that's what's best for the team, that's what he should do.
Yes.
I'm no college football quarterback expert where I'm going to look at you and you can't do that. No, if the GM decides this is what we're going to, but you better than bring in a staff at that point that is very well versed on doing the stuff that you deem Justin is best at. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So put together a crew that will run out an offense. And again, I know that the Eagles have a huddle filled with great players, but bring in a group that you believe will run the style of offense that you think the quarterback could excel in most. It's a tug. It's a push and a pull here. And for any number of reasons, it just doesn't feel like it works